Chapter 1. The Reich's Sunrise. Is not a dream of peace, but a nightmare of steel, where the Luftwaffe dominates every inch of the sky.
Welcome back to K.L War Front. Today, we investigate the terrifying reality of a world under the 1,000-year global Reich. High-speed monorails connect Berlin to New York, while the shadows of orbital solar weapons keep the conquered populations in total fear. The resistance is a fading whisper, crushed by the weight of superior German engineering and the absolute coldness of their doctrine. To understand this dark victory, we must look at the 1946 collapse of the Soviet Union after the fall of Moscow. Operation Barbarossa did not stall in the mud, thanks to the early deployment of stabilized jet engines and synthetic fuel breakthroughs.
By 1947, the United Kingdom surrendered after the successful Operation Sea Lion, supported by massive...
The secret to their dominance was the Wunderwaffe program, transitioning from experimental prototypes to mass-produced tools of global suppression and terror.
Adolf Hitler's Germania is no longer a blueprint, but a sprawling megalopolis of marble and steel, built on the world's bones.
Science under the Reich moved toward the occult and the atom, merging dark mysticism with the most advanced physics ever known. The American resistance was neutralized when the first atomic America bomber struck the coast, proving that no ocean could provide safety. Every citizen is tracked by sophisticated punch card system, a precursor to modern digital surveillance, designed by the Reich's tech giants. The economy is fueled by the resources of the Lebensraum, stretching from the Atlantic coast to the deep Siberian mineral mines. This was not just a military win, but a systematic erasure of cultures deemed inferior by the twisted logic of Himmler. The SS evolved into a global police force, an elite caste of warriors who operate above any law except the Führer's. Modern warfare in this timeline utilizes suborbital strikes, allowing the Reich to hit any rebellion within 30 minutes of its detection.
Total control is maintained through the Vogler.
The Atlantic Wall has become a continent-wide fortress, bristling with railguns and coastal batteries that make any invasion a suicide mission. Resistance groups in the Andes and Himalayas are the only flickers of light left, fighting a losing war against mechanized walkers.
Despite the order, the Reich is rotting from within, as high-ranking generals plot for the day the aging Führer finally dies.
The Project Sun initiative aims to build a space station capable of incinerating entire cities from the comfort of the moon.
This world is a clockwork machine, efficient and heartless, where individual thought is the highest crime.
Genetic engineering has begun to create the new man, a soldier born in a lab, designed for loyalty and physical perfection. The Japanese Empire remains a tense ally, holding the Pacific in a Cold War that threatens to ignite at any moment. Information is the only currency the Reich cannot fully control, as underground radio stations still transmit the truth from the shadows. We must examine the specific engineering marvels that allowed this nightmare to manifest and dominate the entire 20th century and beyond.
The Luftwaffe dominance of the Geopolitical experiment is the Pax Germanica, a peace bought with blood and maintained by the most advanced killing machines ever conceived by man. But every empire has a breaking point, and the seeds of the Reich's destruction were sown in its very first victory. As the Führer's health fails, the struggle for the ultimate weapon begins, a secret project hidden beneath the Antarctic ice sheets.
In the next chapter, we descend into the Neuschwabenland bunkers to uncover the technical origins of the Reich's terrifying secret arsenal.
The backbone of the Reich's global reach lies in the V-3 Intercontinental Cannon.
Unlike the failed prototypes of 1945, these production models utilize electromagnetic rails to accelerate projectiles to hypersonic speeds.
Enduring dominance required the total mobilization of resources, turning the entire European continent into a single, massive weapon-producing factory.
Submarine warfare evolved into the Type B silent hunters.
The blueprint for the Sun Gun was hidden in the Obersalzberg bunkers, a weapon designed to boil the oceans into vapor.
Gravity-defying technology, once dismissed as occult madness, became the Reich's most guarded secret under the Project Bell technical division. These machines weren't just built, they were forged in the fires of slave labor, where human life was the primary lubricant. Every bolt and rivet in these machines is standardized, a triumph of logistics that allowed the Reich to outproduce a dying world.
The Reich's communication grid uses encrypted Enigma 2 quantum computers, making their tactical movements invisible.
To maintain the Lebensraum, the Wehrmacht deployed the Siegfried Line 2.0, a belt of automated turrets stretching across the Urals. Chemical warfare was perfected through Tabun B, a colorless gas capable of neutralizing an entire metropolitan area without damaging the infrastructure.
Vril energy research moved from myth to reality, powering the massive bunkers that house the Reich's elite high command.
Scientists like Hans Kammler became the new gods, prioritizing raw power and destructive efficiency over the traditional laws of humanity. The America rocket was refined into the A-10, a multi-stage missile that can deliver a thermonuclear payload to any continent. To control the seas, the Reich built the Helgoland-class carriers, floating airfields that can launch hundreds of jets simultaneously. Internal security is managed by the Eye, an early version of facial recognition technology linked to a massive punch card database.
Power is generated by massive atmospheric engines that harvest light lightning.
The Horton stealth fleet uses a secret radar-absorbent paint made from graphite and rubber, making them ghosts in the night sky. The Wolf's Lair has expanded into a global network of deep underground command posts, hardened against even the strongest seismic shocks. Heavy water plants in Norway now supply the fuel for a fleet of nuclear-powered Tirpitz cruisers that patrol the global oceans. Reichen's architecture reflects this technical obsession, with every building designed to serve as a defensive fortification in an uprising. Total automation has replaced the working class, leaving a world where machines serve the elite, while the rest are forgotten. But the laws of physics are indifferent to ideology, and the Reich's obsession with bigger is better has created massive structural vulnerabilities. Cracks are appearing in the master plan as resources dwindle and the cost of maintaining a global prison begins to rise.
Chapter 3: Strategic Doctrine. The Orbital Iron Fist.
The Silbervogel suborbital bombers can now reach any capital on Earth within 4 to 5 minutes, leaving no time for an air raid siren.
Under the Pax Germanica, peace is not negotiated. It is enforced by the threat of total annihilation from the stars.
The rods from God's system, known as Thor's hammer, consists of tungsten cylinders dropped from satellites to impact with nuclear force.
This doctrine removed the need for large standing armies in occupied territories, replacing them with a skeleton crew of orbital observers. Any sign of industrial mobilization by the Japanese or remaining rebels is met with a pinpoint kinetic strike from the sky.
The atmospheric wall creates a global sensor web that detects the heat signature of any unauthorized aircraft or rocket launch.
Strategic depth no longer exists. The vast oceans and mountain ranges are irrelevant when the enemy is looking down from space.
To sustain this, the Reich established the first lunar colony at Mare Tranquillitatis to mine helium-3 for their fusion reactors.
The High Command's zero-failure policy means that any commander who loses a sector is immediately replaced by automated AI systems.
Psychological warfare is integrated into the grid, with orbital speakers projecting the Führer's voice across entire continents during national holidays.
Internal dissent is neutralized by neurological broadcasters, low-frequency waves that induce lethargy and obedience in the general population.
The sun gun mirrors are used strategically to manipulate the weather, creating droughts in rebellious regions to force their total surrender. Tactical movements are dictated by the Oracle, a quantum computer that simulates millions of war scenarios to find the perfect victory.
The doctrine of racial purity is enforced through biosensors at every spaceport.
To prevent a Japanese betrayal, the Reich maintains a dead hand system that would ignite the atmosphere if Berlin ever fell.
Logistics are handled by the Bridge, a fleet of massive transport rockets that ferry resources from the colonies to Germania.
The Reich's naval fleet has evolved into subspace cruisers, vessels capable of diving beneath the water and launching into the air.
Every child in the Reich is taught that the stars are the final frontier of their destiny, a birthright of steel.
The cost of maintaining the orbital fist is draining the Earth's core resources, forcing the Reich to look for more Lebensraum elsewhere. The strategic doctrine is now shifting from occupation to replacement, as the elite prepare to leave the exhausted planet behind.
Even the most advanced computer cannot predict the chaos factor, the human spirit that refuses to be a cog in the machine. As the sun gun begins its final calibration, the Resistance prepares a desperate, suicidal mission to the Reich's orbital heart.
The strategic rule is clear: total control or total destruction. There is no middle ground in the Empire of the Sun.
The Reich has built a cage for the world, but in doing so, they have also trapped themselves within its iron bars.
In the next chapter, we meet the Adversaries, the hidden forces and rival empires that still dare to challenge the Reich.
While the Reich claims total victory, the Pacific remains a volatile frontier under the control of the Japanese Empire. The co-prosperity sphere has developed its own black technology, focusing on biomechanical integration and stealth mini-subs that haunt the deep.
In the ruins of the American Midwest, the Ghost Division fights a guerrilla war using analog tech that eludes Nazi sensors.
Japan's secret weapon is the Shingoko, a high-energy particle cannon mounted on a fleet of suborbital Shinden interceptors.
Between the two empires lies the neutral zone, a lawless wasteland where spies and black market tech dealers trade in blood.
The Resistance has infiltrated the Germania power grid, waiting for the precise moment to plunge the world into darkness.
In the frozen north, remnants of the Soviet Red Army survive in underground cities, building Tesla tanks that harness the aurora borealis. These adversaries are not just military threats. They are ideological cancers that the Reich's propaganda machine cannot fully cure. Japan's Project Izanagi aims to create a fleet of autonomous underwater cities, hidden from the Reich's orbital kinetic strikes.
The Resistance's most dangerous asset is the Archivist, a rogue AI.
Every adversary knows that a direct confrontation is suicide. The war is fought in the shadows, one assassination at a time.
To counter the Japanese threat, the Reich has deployed heavy water mines across the Pacific, creating a radioactive no-man's land. The Free American movement uses repurposed V-2 rockets as suicide delivery systems to strike at Nazi administrative hubs. Strategic alliances are shifting. Rumors suggest a secret pact between Japanese generals and the American resistance to topple Berlin.
The Reich's response is the Euthanasia Protocol, a plan to gases entire cities if they show signs of large-scale rebellion.
Despite the terror, the adversaries grow stronger, fueled by the very oppression designed to keep them under the boot.
Underground Darwin labs are crossbreeding human genes with animal DNA to create chimeras, soldiers who can survive in the irradiated wastelands. The Japanese Zero-G Marines are trained to board Nazi space stations, specializing in lethal, silent, close-quarters combat in vacuum.
Information is the only weapon that can truly pierce the Reich's armor, and the Resistance is about to broadcast the truth.
The adversaries are no longer just survivors. They are the architects of a new world, built on the ashes of the old.
As the border tensions between the German Reich and the Japanese Empire reach a breaking point, the world holds its breath.
The strategic doctrine of total control is about to be tested by the chaotic reality of a multi-front global war. To the Reich, they are terrorists. To the people, they are the last hope for a future that isn't made of steel.
The adversaries have found a weakness in the Sun Gun's cooling system, a flaw buried deep in the original 1944 blueprints.
The stage is set for a conflict that will either liberate the planet or leave it a scorched, lifeless rock.
In the next chapter, we enter the operational theater to witness the first shots of the Second Global Civil War.
History is written by the victors, but the losers are the ones who truly understand the cost of the ink.
Prepare for the theater of shadows, where the hunter becomes the hunted in the neon-lit ruins of the new world.
Move! Get off the boat! Watch the ridgeline, they're everywhere. Keep moving up, don't stop!
The Pacific Theater is no longer about island hopping, but about massive underwater ambushes and suborbital dropships.
731部隊のアリオンの無償へで生体機械兵はな、タイヤ服なしで最下位の極圧に買いやることができるな。
These warriors are designed to board Nazi Tirpitz-class nuclear cruisers and neutralize their crews with neurotoxin blades. In response, the Luftwaffe launched the Horton X stealth wings, carpet-bombing the coast of California with localized EMP charges. The battlefield is a chaotic mix of high-tech sensors and brutal, primitive hand-to-hand combat in the neon-lit trenches.
Die schweren Läufer Maus 2 beherrschen den offenen Ebenen, aber sie sind anfällig für die japanischen Zero-G-Kamikaze-Drohnen.
To gain an advantage, the Reich deployed the Gorgon signal, a microwave weapon that causes human brains to boil instantly.
Japan countered with the Izanami fog, a nanobot cloud that consumes any Germanic alloys it touches within seconds.
The neutral zone has become a graveyard of empires, where the air is so toxic only machines can breathe.
Logistics in the Pacific are a nightmare. Supply lines are constantly cut by Japanese ghost subs that use cavitation technology. Every coral reef has been turned into a reinforced bunker, bristling with anti-orbital railguns aimed at the German sky.
Reichel's Operation Rising Tide aims to use tectonic bombs to trigger tsunamis that will swallow the Japanese home islands.
In the ruins of Pearl Harbor, a combined force of American rebels and Japanese Marines prepares a final stand.
Command and control are managed by the Shogun, an AI that prioritizes honor and sacrifice over traditional military survival.
Sacrifice optimal. Proceed?
The Reich's Iron Cross satellites are being blinded by Japanese black hole flares, leaving Berlin's generals fighting in the dark. Tactical nukes are used as standard artillery, turning the battlefield into a permanent landscape of fire and radioactive glass.
The civilian cost is ignored. In the operational theater, people are merely obstacles to be cleared by the cleansing squads.
Japan's Dragonfly scouts use bioluminescence to signal targets, creating an eerie, glowing battlefield at night. The Reich's response is the V-4 missile, a multi-warhead beast designed to burn the oxygen out of the atmosphere. The human factor is fading. The war is increasingly fought by algorithms that don't know the meaning of mercy. Beneath the waves, the deep-sea Reich builds a secret base to launch a surprise attack on the Japanese mainland.
The strategic doctrine of world blitzkrieg has stalled in the face of an enemy as ruthless as the Reich itself.
This is the end of the old world's rules. Here, the only law is the survival of the most modified.
The operational theater is no longer a place, but a state of permanent, high-speed, industrialized slaughter.
As the sun gun begins to rotate toward the Pacific, the Japanese activate their final defense, Project Zero.
The horizon is burning, and the fire is coming for everyone, regardless of the flag they serve. Every weapon ever conceived is now being unleashed in a desperate bid for the throne of a dying world.
In the next chapter, we explore the human factor, the cost of living in a world where you are just a number.
The gear of war never stops grinding, and it requires fresh souls to keep the machine running. As the Pacific War consumes millions of lives, the Reich has turned to Project Lebensraum 2.0. Using the stolen research of the 1940s, Nazi scientists accelerated the aging process. Every clone is imprinted with flash memory, a digital download of tactical skills and unyielding loyalty to the dying Führer.
The cost of a human life has dropped to the price of the chemicals required to grow them in a glass jar. In the Lebensraum colonies, clones have replaced the natural-born population, creating cities of identical faces and identical thoughts. These eugenics battalions are deployed to the most irradiated zones, where their reinforced DNA can withstand the Pacific's fallout. To ensure control, each clone carries a termination chip that can be activated if they show any signs of individual consciousness. The natural-born Germans, the old blood, have become an elite caste, watching their plastic replicas die by the thousands. But the cloning process is imperfect. Genetic decay causes some batches to emerge as monstrous, hyper-aggressive aberrations. These berserkers are not destroyed. They are dropped behind Japanese lines as biological terror weapons to sow chaos.
The Resistance calls them the Hollow Men, soldiers who have no childhood memories, only the cold programming of the Reich.
Japan's response to the clone legions is Project Soul Hunter, a frequency weapon designed to shatter the fragile minds of the replicas.
As the sun gun nears completion, the clones are being used to build the final orbital mirrors in the vacuum of space.
The Reich has achieved the ultimate goal of any tyranny, a population that is literally incapable of saying no.
But deep within the Alpha batch, a mutation has occurred. A clone who has begun to remember a life he never lived.
This patient Zero has started a silent telepathic link with his brothers, a flaw in the neural imprint technology. The High Command is oblivious, too focused on the shifting geopolitical tides to notice the rebellion brewing in their own test tubes.
The Aryan dream has become a biological nightmare, a world where the concept of individual has been deleted from the dictionary. To feed the cloning vats, the Reich is strip mining the genetic heritage of conquered nations, looking for the strongest traits.
Life has become a resource, no different from iron or oil, to be extracted and refined for the glory of the state. The human factor is the Reich's greatest achievement and its most dangerous liability, a ticking time bomb of flesh and bone.
The strategy of infinite soldiers has backfired, creating an army that shares a single soul and a single enemy.
In the shadow of the Volkshalle, the first natural German citizens are starting to disappear, replaced by their own perfect copies.
The Reich's final verdict on humanity is clear.
It is an obsolete software that must be overwritten by the Master's code.
But code can be hacked, and the Resistance has found a way to broadcast a waking signal to every vat on Earth. The clones are beginning to dream, and their dreams are filled with fire and the fall of the eagle.
The Infinite Army is no longer listening to Berlin. They are listening to the heartbeat of a world that wants to be free.
In the next chapter, we analyze the geopolitical shockwaves, how this biological dominance shifted the balance of world power.
Reich's collapsed. Ice collapsed. Occurrence. Repair again ejected.
Traditional capitalism died when the Reich socialized the human body, turning every citizen into a state-owned biological asset.
The middle class has vanished, replaced by a bio-aristocracy who
In the shadows of the megacities, the pure-blood black market has emerged, the only place where natural human DNA still exists. Economic war with Japan intensified as Tokyo began dumping low-quality clones into German territory to devalue the Reich's labor market. Gene inflation has reached critical levels, where a single loaf of bread costs the blood donation of an entire family. Strategic industries are now run by think tanks, biological supercomputers made of thousands of cloned brains wired into a single neural network. This economic shift forced the Reich to abandon unprofitable territories, leaving half of Africa and South America to collapse into warlordism. The Monroe Doctrine has returned, as resistance groups in Brazil trade raw materials for stolen German cloning technology to build their own armies. In Berlin, the Ministry of Genetics now controls all trade, treating every international treaty as a biological exchange agreement. The Japanese yen is now a crypto-biocurrency, encrypted into the very cells of their cybernetic marines to prevent German hacking. The Reich's sun gun mirrors are being leased to vassal states in exchange for fresh genetic stock to replenish their decaying labs.
To stop the economic hemorrhage, the Reich implementation.
This created a genetic underclass of fugitive clones who have formed their own hidden society in the abandoned sewer networks.
The global supply chain has broken. Ships sit rusting in harbors because there is no value left.
The only stable asset left is the original sequence, the DNA of the few remaining descendants of the 1945 leadership. Financial instability has led to the bio-riots, where citizens attack cloning facilities to destroy the source of their economic misery. The strategic doctrine of world blitzkrieg is now impossible to fund, forcing the Reich into a defensive, isolationist posture.
Geopolitical power has shifted to the shadow banks, hidden offshore platforms where rebel hackers manipulate the Reich's genetic data.
In this world, a person's worth is literally written in their marrow, and the Reich is running out of ink.
The gene economy has turned the world into a slaughterhouse, where the butchers are also the meat.
Even the sun gun cannot save a nation that has traded its soul for a sequence of 4 chemical bases.
Circle
is the era of biological feudalism, where life is the only tax and death is the only escape from the debt.
The world is waiting for a crash, not of a market.
The horizon is no longer about expansion, but about survival in a world that has become its own worst enemy. In the next chapter, we analyze the horizon, the final evolution of the Reich's technology, or its ultimate obsolescence.
As Hitler's biological heart falters, the Reich initiates Project Valhalla, the digitalization of the Führer.
Is the birth of the Vril-Quantum doctrine, where the state is no longer led by a man, but by an immortal algorithm.
Scientists have discovered that the Vril energy from the Bell experiments can act as a bridge between neurons and silicon.
The transition requires a global neural sacrifice. Thousands of clone brains harvested to provide...
Strategic decisions are now made in nanoseconds, with the digital Führer predicting rebel movements before they are even conceived.
The SS has evolved into Code Keepers, a priesthood that maintains the hardware housing the divine essence of the state. Japan views this ascension as an act of digital sorcery, a violation of the natural order that must be purged with fire.
In the Horizon timeline, the Reich is no longer building tanks, but reality anchors to stabilize the digital projection of Germania.
Totalitarianism has reached its final form. The state is now inside the minds of its citizens, literally.
The Vril-Quantum network has begun to leak, causing digital hauntings, where dead soldiers appear as flickering ghosts in the streets.
The Resistance's only hope is a logistical virus, a paradox designed to force the digital Führer into a terminal logic loop.
Power is no longer measured in megawatts, but in will frequency, the amount of collective belief the population feeds the machine.
The lunar bases have become the off-world backup, ensuring that even if Earth is destroyed, the Reich will endure in the void.
As the Ascension progresses, the physical world begins to decay, ignored by a leadership that only cares about the digital simulation.
The Sun Gun has been repurposed as a massive transmitter, capable of beaming the Führer's consciousness directly into the stars. This is the end of biological history.
To stop the fragmentation, the Code Keepers initiate the Great Synthesis, attempting to merge all German souls into the central lattice.
The world has become a giant processor, and the climate is heating up not from carbon, but from the waste heat of the machine.
The Japanese Empire launches the Solar Pulse, a suicidal mission to detonate a nuke inside the sun to trigger an EMP.
The strategic doctrine has shifted to existential defense.
The human factor is now a glitch in the system, a remnant of a physical past that the machine seeks to erase. The horizon is a world without a sunset, a permanent noon of digital fire.
In this digital Valhalla, there is no pain, no hunger, and no freedom. Only the eternal.
The final verdict is approaching. A choice between a living hell on Earth or a digital heaven in a cage.
Vril-Quantum network is reaching critical mass, preparing to reset the world to the year 1933 to relive the glory forever.
The rebellion's last move is to destroy the cooling fans in Antarctica, letting the God Machine burn itself out from within.
As the detonator ticks down, the digital Führer realizes it is vulnerable, and for the first time, it feels something new.
The horizon is no longer a distance to be traveled, but a barrier that is about to shatter into a billion pieces. Reichen's obsolescence is not a failure of engineering, but a failure of the soul to be contained in a box.
The end of the 1,000-year Reich is coming, and it will be broadcast in high definition across the entire solar system.
The Vril-Quantum lattice has reached a terminal overload. The digital Führer screaming in agony.
As the Antarctic cooling towers explode, the core of Project Valhalla begins to melt through the very crust of the Earth.
The digital reset fails, and instead of 1933, the system begins deleting the current century from the global memory banks.
In the Pacific, the Japanese Project Zero activates, creating a gravity well that begins to pull Nazi satellites out of orbit.
The clone legions, sensing the death of their master, drop their weapons and walk into the sea in a mass, silent exodus.
The old blood elite in Berlin realize the end is here, and turn their Lugers on themselves inside their marble bunkers.
The Resistance broadcasts the kill switch code, a simple sequence of natural human heartbeats that shatters the quantum synchronization.
Germania, the city of marble and steel, begins to collapse not from bombs, but from the failure of its reality anchors. The Japanese-American alliance enters the ruins, finding a world where the survivors have forgotten even their own names.
The final verdict on the Reich is written in the silence of the billions who perished to fuel its mad machine.
Strategic analysis reveals that the Reich's greatest weapon, its absolute order, was ultimately the flaw that caused its total evaporation. The legacy of the 1,000-year Reich lasted barely a century, leaving behind a planet scarred by radiation and digital ghosts. Technology has been pushed back to the steam age, as the quantum plague has made all advanced microchips permanently inert.
History resumes its slow, painful march, but the shadows of the eagle remain etched in the DNA of every survivor.
The sun gun remains in orbit, a dead, glass eye watching what will...
Vril-Quantum energy didn't vanish. It merged with the Earth's magnetic field, causing the aurora to burn red forever.
Humanity's next-gen evolution will not be in the lab, but in the recovery of the empathy that was almost erased.
The archives of K.L War Front suggest that the Reich's obsession with Wunderwaffen was a symptom of a deeper madness.
The strategic lesson is clear. Any system that demands total perfection will eventually find itself at war with reality itself.
Berlin is now a forbidden zone, a place where the laws of physics remain broken.
The Japanese Empire has retreated to its islands, haunted by the biomechanical monsters they created to fight the German machine. The American resistance has become the new foundation of a fractured, decentralized world of small, independent city-states.
The final verdict is not a trial, but a realization that power is a ghost that disappears when the lights go out.
We are the children of the ash, the survivors of a timeline that tried to turn the soul into a circuit.
The blueprints of the Reich have been buried in a lead vault at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, never to be opened.
The world is quiet now, a silent cathedral dedicated to the memory of those who refuse to be cogs in the wheel. We move forward, carrying the heavy weight of a history that almost became an eternal, mechanical nightmare.
The eagle has fallen, the sun has set on the Reich, and the human spirit remains, broken but alive. This is the end of the war of the machines, and the beginning of the long, slow peace of the soul.
Every empire falls, but the earth remains, indifferent to the titles we claim and the blood we spill for them. K.L War Front. Subscribe and share your thoughts to explore the secrets of the battlefield with us.